In the dim light of her bathroom, Sarah stood before the fogged-up mirror, pondering the strange twist her life had taken since Jake became a part of it. With the faint sound of his laughter echoing from the living room, a sudden jolt of trepidation coursed through her. It was just an innocent stepbrother-sister relationship, but the past weeks had woven a tapestry of tension and excitement that lingered in the air like a charged storm. She took a deep breath, her heart racing as she squinted at her reflection. A cascade of wild curls framed her face, the blush of embarrassment creeping up her cheeks at the thought of Jake seeing her in a less than favorable light. What was it about him that made her feel so anxious and exhilarated? He was just Jake, her goofy, kind-hearted stepbrother who, despite his clumsiness, somehow managed to draw her in. Tonight, Sarah had promised herself she would confront this confusing array of emotions once and for all. As she ran a hand through her hair, she caught a glimpse of her reflection, a girl straddling the line between childhood and adulthood, caught in a dizzying dance of platonic love and burgeoning feelings. With HFY, the resolve to push aside her apprehensions, she slipped into her soft towel and made her way towards the warm embrace of the shower. The steam rising mistily was more than just hot water. It was a cocoon, a chance to release the day's pressures. But as she turned the faucet, all thoughts of relaxation slipped away like water through her fingers when she heard Jake's laughter ring out again, a sound that played like a siren's call in her ears. An idea struck her own that filled her with a mix of mischief and bravery. What if she surprised him? It was the sort of playful thing they'd always done together, pulling pranks, hiding in corners to sneak attack. Her heart raced at the thought of catching him off guard. Stepping lightly down the hallway, Sarah imagined the playful look on his face when he saw her. She reached for the bathroom door, the opportunity to shatter the norm and inject a bit of fun into their afternoon. Giggling softly to herself, she couldn't help but feel both excited and apprehensive. What would Jake think? Would he find it amusing, or would this inadvertently complicate their already delicate equilibrium? With hesitant fingers, she slowly nudged the door open. The doorway revealed a scene that made her pause, her breath hitching in her throat. Jake was under the warm cascade of water, not a care in the world, utterly oblivious to the trouble brewing just outside the door. The water glistened over his tousled hair, reflecting the soft glow of the bathroom light. Everything about him was relaxed, carefree, and in that moment, he was more than just her stepbrother, he was simply a boy. Sarah felt butterflies erupt in her stomach, a mix of thrill and dread. What was she doing? As she caught sight of the playful curve of his lips, her heart raced, beating faster than ever. A bizarre mixture of admiration and confusion filled her thoughts. She couldn't help but revel in the moment. Yet what felt like excitement quickly turned into uncertainty as their eyes locked, and suddenly the air between them shifted. "Whoa! Sarah!" Jake exclaimed, startled by her unexpected appearance. In one quick motion, he turned his back to her, scrambling for a towel. The brief interaction sent currents of unexpected emotion flooding through her, the warmth of laughter mixed with an underlying tension that left them both stunned. Flushed with embarrassment, Sarah stepped back, her mind spinning. Why did this moment feel so monumental? Had she just crossed some invisible line? "I'm sorry," she stammered, her cheeks burning hotter than they ever had before. But as the initial shock wore off, she couldn't shake the feeling of exhilaration. Was it the thrill of the chase? The rush of heart-pounding adrenaline as she peered into his world? Or was it something deeper, something that whispered secrets she wasn't ready to acknowledge? The bathroom door stood ajar, a portal into an uncharted territory of emotions. As she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of Jake, hair slicked, back and eyes wide, his face blending confusion with something else, curiosity, excitement. It was an expression Sarah could hardly decipher, and a swell of longing stirred in her chest. In the days that followed, everything had changed. An electric current thrummed in the air whenever they were within proximity, an unspoken understanding that lingered beneath the surface. Jake's laughter had an edge of nervousness now. He was no longer just her goofy stepbrother, but someone shrouded in a new light, prompting thoughts that were unfamiliar yet tantalizing. They began sharing stolen glances, lingering a bit longer, during conversations and even brushing their hands together as they passed plates during dinner. The very fabric of their friendship was beginning to unravel and weave itself into something else, something more complex. Yet, uncertainty loomed over them both. Jake was still her stepbrother, the boy who had been her ally in mischief and her sounding board during difficult times. Did he feel that shift beneath the surface? Could they really delve deeper without risking everything they'd built? For Sarah, each day brought a mix of hope and fear, and often left her questioning if her feelings were even reciprocated. One evening, she caught him staring at her across the table. His gaze was intense, almost searching, as if he too was grappling with a newfound awareness. Sarah felt her heart flutter, a warmth spreading through her as she met his eyes. An acknowledgement passed between them, but it was veiled in uncertainty, leaving them both quietly wrestling with emotions that had somehow strengthened their connection. While anxieties hung in the air like ghosts haunting their every playful exchange, there was a shared understanding that they were on the precipice of something extraordinary. Sarah felt it in her bones, the thrill of possibility, the excitement of ambiguity woven together in the tapestry of their relationship. Little did they know that this moment, this strange collision of innocence and desire, would turn the tides of their friendship forever. Each unspoken word, each stolen look, would become the very foundation upon which their new reality would be built, a complex, beautifully tangled mess that could lead them either to heartbreak or newfound heights. As Sarah prepared herself for what lay ahead, she found herself exhilarated by the unpredictability of it all. This journey, filled with moments of laughter and tension, was just beginning, and she was finally ready to dive headfirst into the emotional sea that awaited her. Little did she realize how profound the impact of a fleeting moment could be, and how one close encounter could change the course of their lives entirely. The aftermath. The days following the shower incident left Sarah in a whirlwind of emotions. Each moment with Jake felt charged, pulsing with an electricity she had never experienced before. Their interactions, once so simple and carefree, became a delicate dance, a careful balancing act of teasing and lingering glances. Despite the easiness they once shared, a cautious tension filled the spaces between them. Jake's laughter still rang through the house, but now it often felt just slightly out of reach. Every time Sarah entered a room, she would look for him, her heart leaping in anticipation. But what would she say? How could she bridge the gap that had formed since that fateful day? As the sun began to dip on a cool Friday evening, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands. She needed a plan. It was time to reclaim their friendship before it all became too complicated. This thought spiraled through her mind as she busily prepared their favorite snacks for a movie night. She wanted the familiar comfort of their routine, hoping to ease the tension that had crept between them. With popcorn popped and cookies baked, she set down the platter in front of the TV, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Taking a deep breath, she called out to Jake from the living room. "Hey, movie night, you in?" There was a moment of silence before he appeared in the doorway, a playful grin breaking across his face. "I thought you'd never ask." He moved to the couch, fluffing the pillows in a way that seemed overly animated, adding a layer of charm to his usual awkwardness. As the movie began, Sarah tried to focus on the screen, but her mind was racing. Jake was sitting so close, an electric proximity that felt both thrilling and daunting. She glanced over, catching him already staring at her, his eyes flickering with the glow of the television. Their gaze locked for a fleeting moment, sending her heart into a wild thrum. What are you looking at?" Sarah shot back playfully, desperately searching for a way to ease the building tension. Jake chuckled, shaking his head. "Just trying to figure out how you managed to look so..." He paused, a smirk creeping onto his lips. "Mysterious all the time." "Oh, come on. Mysterious?" She feigned offense, raising an eyebrow. "I'm just your average girl trying to survive the chaos of living with her super cool stepbrother." "Super cool, huh?" He laughed, their playful exchange momentarily diffusing the tension. That was the Jake she knew. As they resumed watching, she felt an undercurrent of warmth between them, an awareness that seemed to pulse through the space. Midway through the movie, Jake leaned in slightly to grab a handful of popcorn from the bowl between them, and in an instant, Their arms brushed against each other. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as a thrill shot through her. She dared to look over, their eyes meeting once more, and for a fleeting moment the rest of the world vanished. But, as the credits rolled, the profound silence that followed felt oppressive. Struggling against the urge to fill it with meaningful words, Sarah fidgeted with the edges of the blanket draped over her knees. She glanced sideways at Jake, who was staring at the no-blank screen, lost in thought. "Sarah," he finally said, breaking the silence. "Can we talk about what happened?" The air shimmered with tension as she turned to face him. "You mean the shower?" "Yeah." He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncharacteristically serious. "It's been weird since then. I don't want things to be awkward between us." "What if it's not awkward? Maybe it's just different," Sarah offered, bravely facing the conversation she had been dreading, but knew was unavoidable. Jake sighed, looking thoughtful. "I like different, but I don't want to screw anything up if it's just my imagination." Sarah felt her heart constrict slightly. "Jake, you're not imagining it." Before she could finish, the front door creaked open and Sarah's mom came bustling in, oblivious to the moment that had been suspended between them. "Hey, kids! What's on the agenda tonight?" she asked cheerfully. "Just a movie," Jake replied, his demeanor shifting instantly back to lightheartedness as he gestured to the remnants of their snack spread. "Great! Mind if I join?" her mom asked, her smile brightening the room. Sure," Sarah said reluctantly, feeling the weight of unsaid words linger in the air like a ghost. Any momentum they had established vanished as they fell back into the ease of family interactions. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter and chatter. While her mom shared stories and Jake offered playful commentary, Sarah felt herself drifting further away from her initial resolve to confront their feelings. Each moment that passed without clarity left her restless, and a teetering anxiety brewed within her. The nights turned into days, and after days turned into weeks. The initial fervor began to dull into a muted companionship. Though laughter echoed through the halls, glances were still filled with deeper meaning conversations laden with unacknowledged feelings. Sarah felt like a spectator in her own life, viewing their new relationship as something they both desperately clung to but were afraid to define. One weekend, Sarah decided to invite a couple of friends over for a small gathering, hoping to lift her spirits and distract both herself and Jake from the ongoing tension. The house buzzed with the energy of laughter and music, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Jake was still lingering in the background. From time to time, she caught him leaning against the wall, watching her with an expression that both intrigued and haunted her. "Hey, you!" Sarah called out, pulling him into the group. "Come join us. We're playing charades." "Charades?" Jake raised an eyebrow with a teasing smile before taking a few steps forward. "You know I'll embarrass myself, right?" "Exactly. That's what makes it fun." She laughed, her heart swelling with a mix of affection and mischief as they began to play. As the game progressed, the atmosphere lightened, with everyone vying for creative expressions and exaggerated gestures. It was during one particularly ridiculous round when Jake had to act out a movie that Sarah felt a shift in the energy around them. They exchanged amused looks as he flailed humorously, and for the first time in weeks, the weight of unspoken words seemed to ease, even if just for a moment. But as the night wore on, the lingering tension remained. When her friends finally left, Sarah caught Jake standing on the porch, watching the stars as if seeking some profound truth in the night sky. "Hey," she said softly, joining him in silence, peering up. "What are you thinking about?" "Just everything. It's hard to sort it all out." His voice was low, tinged with vulnerability that struck a chord within her. "You know, how we are, it feels different, and I don't want to mess up a good thing." "Neither do I," Sarah admitted, the words tumbling out before she could second-guess herself. "I just want to find a way to talk about it, to be open." Jake turned to meet her gaze, his eyes searching. "What do you want, Sarah?" I want to understand what this is between us. I don't want to ignore it anymore." She said, the honesty in her voice threading through the cool night air. For a heartbeat, the world around them fell away, leaving just the two of them under the vast sky. Jake hesitated. then took a step closer, the distance narrowing to a point that felt monumental. I don't want to ruin what we have, but I can't deny there's something there. I've felt it since that day. The admission hung between them, vibrant and palpable, stirring the air with possibilities that electrified the moment. Sarah felt her heart race. It was now or never. So, what do we do? He searched her face, his expression unguarded, and it felt like they had been handed a choice one that could change everything. Maybe we just take it one step at a time. Sarah nodded, a mixture of relief and longing surging through her. One step at a time it is, then. Though neither knew where this path would lead, they both felt ready to embark on the journey together. With uncertainty still looming in the shadows, they took that first moment, stepping closer to crossing, an unspoken threshold. Time felt suspended as they embraced the freshness of a new chapter, one not defined by the past but filled with the promise of what lay ahead. The magnetic tension that had once kept them apart now felt like a bridge between their hearts, a link that could open up a world filled with hope, friendship, and the thrill of possibility, a hidden affection. The days flew by after that pivotal moment on the porch, each filled with an undercurrent of excitement and uncertainty. Sarah and Jake had settled into an unspoken agreement. They would explore their complex feelings without rushing into anything that might disrupt their bond. But even with this understanding, a quiet tension loomed in the background, amplifying every glance, every laugh, and every fleeting touch. One warm Saturday morning, Sarah woke up with a sense of possibility thrumming in her veins. She decided to seize the day, reaching for her phone to text Jake. "Hey, let's go for a hike. The weather is too beautiful to waste." To her delight, Jake responded almost instantly. "I'm in. Where to?" They chose a local trail that wound through a lush forest, with sun-dappled paths and the promise of breathtaking views at the summit. As Sarah laced up her hiking boots, she felt a swirl of anticipation, a blend of camaraderie and something deeper that she had difficulty defining. When they met at the trailhead, Jake was already there, adjusting the straps on his backpack. He looked effortlessly handsome in a simple t-shirt and cargo shorts, his hair tousled from the wind. The sight made her pulse quicken in a way that was distinctly new. "Ready to conquer the world?" he teased, flashing a smile that lit up her heart. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, trying to exude confidence, though her nerves fluttered beneath the surface. They began their ascent, the path lined with vibrant greenery and the sweet scent of wildflowers. As they hiked, their conversation flowed effortlessly between lighthearted banter and deeper discussions about dreams and ambitions. Each shared laugh felt like a building block, fortifying the bond they were nurturing. Yet with every step they took, Sarah couldn't shake the weight of unacknowledged feelings. She watched Jake as he animatedly shared a story about a camping trip gone wrong, his eyes sparkling with excitement, and she felt a yearning deep inside. Suddenly, Jake stopped on the trail, turning to her with a serious expression. "Can I ask you something, Sarah?" "Of course." Her stomach twisted in anticipation. "If we're going to explore whatever this is between us, how do we know where the lines are? I don't want to cross anything we can't come back from." His words struck a chord within her, and she felt a pang of anxiety. "Honestly, Jake, I don't know. But I think we both feel it, and it's not like it's going to go away. Maybe we just figure it out as we go?" A flicker of relief passed over his face, and he nodded. "That works for me. I don't want to overthink this." With a shared sense of determination, they continued along the winding path. The woods felt alive around them, infused with the magic of nature that mirrored their own growing connection. As they reached a viewpoint overlooking a stunning valley, they both paused, breathless. "Wow," Jake breathed, stepping closer to the edge. "This is incredible." "Like you," Sarah teased, unable to resist. The moment felt right to flirt just a little, to poke fun and revel in the subtle changes in their dynamic. Jake turned to her, a grin breaking out across his face. "Okay, that was good." As they soaked in the view, Sarah couldn't help but feel the gravity of the moment. The air between them crackled with anticipation, hesitation, and an unspoken promise of what might come next. But then, a sudden rustle in the bushes broke the quiet, drawing their attention. Startled, they turned, and a doe stepped timidly into view, her large eyes watching them curiously. "Look," Jake whispered, pointing. The moment felt magical, somehow intertwining with their own unfolding story. As they watched the deer, Sarah felt the edginess of the moment they were in. Was it possible to become something more than friends while navigating the delicate lines of familial connection? Just as the doe took a cautious step closer, a loud snap echoed from the other side of the ridge, startling it into a sprint. The moment shattered, leaving them both breathless. "Did you hear that?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly. "Yeah, what was that?" Jake replied, his eyes scanning the area. Nervously, the tension was building again, and this time it wasn't just between them. "Maybe it's just some other hikers," Sarah suggested, though a flicker of worry crossed her mind. They had been on the trail for a while, and the isolation felt even more pronounced now. "Let's keep moving," Jake said, trying to keep the mood light as they turned back towards the path. But Sarah couldn't shake the unease that had settled into her bones. The woods, normally a refuge, suddenly felt a bit threatening. The trail narrowed as they continued, the trees closing in around them. The mood shifted subtly, and Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. They pressed on, but with every snap of a twig or rustle of leaves, her heart raced a little faster. "Hey, if it's getting too intense, we can turn back," Jake suggested, sensing her tension. "It's supposed to be fun, after all." "No, I want to keep going," Sarah insisted, determination seeping into her voice. "Besides, I think we're almost there." As they hiked further, the sound of rushing water met their ears. "I think I hear a river," Jake exclaimed, his energy returning with the promise of a refreshing break. When they finally arrived at the riverbank, the sight was breathtaking. Water cascaded over rocks, glimmering in the sunlight like diamonds. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the beauty and the serenity of the moment, but the doubts loomed large in her mind. "This is perfect," Jake declared, throwing his backpack down and taking a seat on a flat rock. "Let's chill for a minute." He dipped his toes in the water, the cool current rushing over his skin. Sarah joined him, feeling the gentle pull of the water as she gazed at the shimmering surface. A peaceful moment enveloped them, and she decided to let go of the anxiety swirling in her head. "Okay, let's make a pact," she said, determined to shift the mood. "No more awkwardness, just fun, like old times." "Deal," Jake replied, his smile infectious. He splashed a bit of water her way, and she retaliated with laughter, splashing him back. As they engaged in playful banter, Sarah felt a weight lift, but a flicker of seriousness returned. "But really, Jake, I want to explore this thing between us, to see where it can go." He paused, his expression shifting into something deeper. "Me too, but I still don't want to screw anything up." "Neither do I," she admitted, the underlying tension returning to the forefront. Just then, a loud crash came from the nearby thicket, drawing their attention. Jake stood up, surveying the area. "Did you hear that?" Before Sarah could respond, a group of teenagers burst onto the scene, laughing and yelling, splashing one another as they flooded the riverbank. The joyous chaos disrupted the peaceful moment they had created. "Hey, mind if we join?" one of them called, already wading into the water without waiting for an answer. Sarah exchanged a glance with Jake, their earlier seriousness vanishing beneath the unexpected distraction. "I guess we're outnumbered," she laughed, feeling a rush of camaraderie with the newcomers. Over the next hour, the energy shifted, completely as the teens splashed and played, their laughter echoing through the woods. Sarah threw herself into the fun, letting the unpredictability wash over her. But amidst the chaos, she still caught glimpses of Jake, his gaze lingering on her in a way that ignited her heart. Eventually, the group began to dissolve, and the teenagers headed back up the trail, leaving Sarah and Jake with the quiet stillness of the river once more. Jake turned to her, his expression contemplative. "That was unexpected." "Yeah," she said, her adrenaline still pumping. "But it was fun. We actually needed that distraction." He smiled, and for a moment they stood in comfortable silence, the world around them swaying to a gentle rhythm. But beneath that calm surface, Sarah felt a stir of tension again. "Do you think—" She hesitated, uncertain of how to articulate the whirlwind of feelings that had developed between them. "Do you think this can work?" Jake took a step closer. "I really hope it can, but it means we need to be honest with each other, no matter how scary it is." "I'm all in for that," Sarah responded, courage surging through her. No more dodging the elephant in the room. The air grew thick with unuttered words, and their eyes locked once more. In those shared moments, something undeniable shimmered between them, pulling them closer together. But just as she felt the fragile thread of intimacy stretching toward a breaking point, the sounds of rustling branches disrupted the moment again. With a soft crack, a large branch fell from the tree above, landing perilously close to where they stood, and Jake instinctively grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Whoa, that was close!" Heart pounding from the unexpected scare, Sarah looked up at Jake, their close proximity amplifying the tension that crackled like electricity in the air. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, just startled," he replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. But there was something in his eyes that lingered, a question left hanging in the air. In the quiet that followed, they turned towards each other fully, the weight of everything they had yet to say sharpening their focus. Sarah could feel a sense of urgency rising, a call to action in the heat of the moment. Her heart raced, not just from the shock, but from the realization that this was more than just a friendship evolving. There was something deeper here, woven into the fabric of their shared laughter and quiet moments. In that charged silence, Sarah felt the world around them fade, narrowing down to just the two of them and the uncharted territory they stood poised to explore. As they exchanged daring glances filled with promise, something inside her shifted, a sense of truth blooming in the heart of uncertainty. Maybe it was time to take the step they had both been avoiding, to leap forward into the unknown, regardless of what lay ahead. With every ounce of courage she could muster, Sarah prepared to embrace the connection they had built through laughter, unspoken tension, and the promise of something uncharted yet thrilling, a connection woven through with hope, curiosity, and an undeniable spark that lingered just beneath the surface: the choice. As the afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, casting soft golden hues across the trees, Sarah felt the air between her and Jake change once again. The excitement of the day was slowly giving way to something more profound, a deeper connection that clung to them like the fading light. Each heartbeat resonated with the unspoken words that lingered in the air, building in magnitude as if daring them to finally act. "Maybe we should head back," Jake suggested, breaking the silence that had settled around them. But his tone lacked conviction, as if he too sensed that their moment was fragile, balanced on a precipice. "Do you want to?" Sarah asked, her voice soft yet filled with determination. She could feel the weight of the question hanging between them, a delicate tightrope walk that could easily tip one way or another. His eyes locked onto hers, and she could see the gears turning in his mind. "I think we should probably—" "But I don't want to go," she interrupted, the urgency bubbling to the surface. "Not yet. I mean, there's something we need to address." Jake's expression shifted, a mixture of surprise and intrigue flickering across his face. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," she breathed, stepping closer. The river shimmered behind them, a backdrop to the defining moment they had both been avoiding. "I think we owe it to ourselves to really talk about us." Moments stretched thin, the weight of possibilities hanging around them like a fog. Jake took a deep breath, his gaze softening. "Okay, let's talk." They turned to face the rippling water, the sound of the current providing a soothing backdrop as they each took a moment to gather their thoughts. Sarah could feel the tremor of anticipation in her stomach, twisting like a roller coaster ready to plunge downward. "Since that day in the shower, things have felt different," she began, taking a leap of faith. "I've been thinking about us a lot." Jake stepped back slightly, his brows furrowing. "Different how?" "Just, I don't know." I feel like we have this bond that's evolving, and I want to explore that. Her heart raced with every syllable, but she needed him to understand the depths of her vulnerability. Sarah, I feel it too, he admitted, his voice dropping an octave as though he were sharing a secret. But what if we risk everything? By crossing that line, it's not just a brother-sister vibe anymore. His honesty both thrilled and terrified her. That's precisely what I'm afraid of. I don't want to ruin what we've built, but it's weighing on me, she confessed, her words pouring out like a dam breaking. Jake ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly along the riverbank. I get it, but we can't pretend it isn't there. I don't want us to look back one day and wonder, what if? The air felt thick with tension and longing, each word exchanged amplifying the fire they had started. So what do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake stopped and turned to her, his expression intense. Are you saying you want to take the leap? To see where this leads? Her heart raced as she searched his eyes, looking for any sign of hesitation. Yes, but I want to do it together. No secrets. With a flicker of resolve, Jake took a step closer, their bodies mere inches apart. Okay, but we need to be honest with ourselves and with each other. There's no going back if we take this step. Agreed, Sarah breathed, the weight of their choice pressing down on her but also filling her with exhilaration. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her, and she felt a heady combination of fear and excitement. Just then, the sound of a snapping twig broke the moment, and both of them turned sharply. From the trees emerged the source of the noise. A dark figure stood at the edge of the forest. Hey, is this your party? A voice called out, cutting through the charged atmosphere. A couple of familiar faces appeared, their friends from earlier rushing into the scene, laughter erupting as they interrupted the intense moment. Great, we didn't want to miss this, one of them said, interjecting an unexpected wave of chaos. The playful distraction shattered the intimacy they had been building like a fragile glass sculpture, and frustration bubbled within Sarah. She exchanged an exasperated glance with Jake, who looked equally dismayed. Just when we were about to... Sarah bit her lip, her anticipation deflating like a balloon losing air. Jake sighed, shaking his head with a half-smile, but in his eyes, Sarah could see the struggle. Guess we'll have to put that conversation on hold. The group of friends. Settled by the riverbank, sharing stories and laughter as the sun settled lower. Sarah felt the atmosphere shift once more, this time away from their meaningful connection and back into the whirlwind of excitement. While Jake mingled with their friends, Sarah found herself standing to the side, acutely aware of the tension that had unraveled between them. They exchanged glances from time to time, each fleeting look filled with unspoken words, and each moment felt like a reminder of what they were meant to confront. But the distractions kept coming, laughter and noise blending into the background of her thoughts. As dusk approached, the group decided to light a small fire by the riverbank, gathering sticks and laying them out to create a cozy gathering place. Sarah joined in, trying to immerse herself in the camaraderie, yet she couldn't help but steal glances at Jake, who seemed to be in his element, his laughter mixing effortlessly with their friends. But then her gaze caught something in the shadows, an unsettling figure lurking at the far edge of the trees. It was dark, almost obscured, but her instincts shouted at her to take notice. Heart pounding, she felt a sense of foreboding wash over her. Jake, she called, her voice cutting through the chatter. The sudden tone in her voice drew his attention, and he turned, concern etching his features as he approached her. What's wrong? He asked, lowering his voice as he stepped closer, almost instinctively protective. There's something over there. She pointed towards the shadowed area. I thought I saw someone. Jake turned to look, but the darkness obscured her suspicions. It's probably just another hiker. Maybe they got lost, he said, trying to calm her nerves, though Sarah could see the uncertainty in his eyes. Maybe, but it felt strange, she replied, scanning the dark woods as an uncomfortable chill crept down her spine. After a moment, Jake nodded, his protective instincts kicking in. Let's check it out. With that, they both edged away from the gathering, leaving their friends behind as they cautiously approached the shadow. The vibrant smiles and laughter faded with each step, replaced by an eerie silence that sent shivers through Sarah. They reached the tree line, the shadows twisting and shifting. "Hello," Jake called out tentatively. Silence answered, but Sarah felt an anxiety building within her. "I don't like this," she whispered, taking a step back. "Let's go back to the fire." "Wait," Jake said firmly. He took another step forward. "I just want to see. If it's nothing, we'll head back." Before she could respond, a low growl emerged from the darkness. A pair of eyes glinted ominously in the shadows, and her heart raced. "Jake!" she gasped, instinctively reaching for his arm. Just then, a large dog bolted from the trees, charging toward them, barking furiously. The sudden commotion startled both Sarah and Jake, and they instinctively stepped back. "Easy, buddy," Jake exclaimed, trying to calm the dog, but it continued to bark, tension thick in the air. "Where did you come from?" "Maybe it got lost," Sarah said, still grappling with the rapid surge of adrenaline. "We should go back." But the dog suddenly lunged forward, hopping excitedly around them as if they were newfound friends. "Looks friendly," Jake said, crouching down to let the dog sniff his hand. As it wagged its tail, a wave of relief washed over Sarah. "Okay, that was not what I expected," she said, laughing nervously as the dog began to playfully jump around them. Just then, a voice broke through the surprising uproar. "Buster, there you are!" A young man emerged from the trees, his expression a mix of relief and annoyance. "Is he yours?" Sarah asked, still slightly shaken but relieved to see the boy. "Yeah, I'm so sorry. He runs off sometimes," the boy said, laughing nervously as he approached. "Thank you guys for keeping him safe." After a brief conversation, it became clear that the youngsters knew each other, acquaintances from the local area. The young man took the dog, and after ensuring the pup was safely leashed, he nodded in appreciation before heading back into the woods. "Guess it's time to head back too," Jake said, glancing over at Sarah. She could see the mix of adrenaline and amusement darting in his eyes, a reminder of how quickly the tension can shift. "Yeah, let's get back before anything else surprises us," she laughed, though her heart was still racing. As they returned to the group, their friends welcomed them back with cheerful banter and quick jests. As she settled back near the fire, the earlier intimacy with Jake still burned brightly in her heart, refusing to be extinguished by the momentary distraction. But as laughter echoed into the night, she felt a different kind of apprehension surface. Fear that the opportunity to explore their connection might slip through their fingers once again. Each shared glance held a promise, yet every laugh felt like a reminder of what they stood to lose by not addressing it. After another hour of laughter and stories, as darkness enveloped them like a comforting blanket, Jake leaned in closer. "Can we talk again? Alone this time?" "Definitely," Sarah replied, her heart racing as she felt a sense of urgency swell within her. Once again, they slipped away from the fire, the glow fading as they moved toward the trees at the water's edge. As soon as they found their quiet spot, Jake turned to her, his expression softened with determination. "About what we said earlier, I really want to explore this." "Explore us," he said, his voice steady, eyes radiating sincerity. "I thought you might have changed your mind," she admitted, her heart racing. "Never," he replied, stepping closer. "I'm just more certain now. I just need to understand how to balance it with everything else." "What do you mean?" she prompted. "Between being step-siblings and—" His voice trailed, the weight of what was at stake filling the air, and then, before Sarah could respond, a sudden rustling from the trees behind them tore through the moment. Sarah's breath caught in her throat, and her instincts kicked in, sending a jolt of fear rushing through her. "What was that?" she whispered, panic rising. Jake's protective instinct kicked in as he turned to face the direction of the noise. "Stay close," he said, his voice low and steady. The shadows danced around them, and the moment stretched thin with unease. Just as they began to step back towards the fire, a pair of figures emerged from the darkness, a group of unfamiliar faces stepping into the moonlight. "Hey, what are you two doing out here?" one of them called out, nonchalantly approaching. Jake stiffened beside her, uncertainty wrapping around them like a vine. "Who are you?" he asked, eyes narrowing. Oh, don't worry. We're just passing through looking for some fun, the lead figure replied, flashing a grin. Sarah's instincts screamed that something was off, a sensation curling in her stomach. We're just hanging out. Could you please keep your distance? She said, trying to stand her ground, but the confidence faltered slightly. The strangers exchanged glances, whispers blending into low laughter. Ah, don't be like that. We just wanted to say hi. With her heart racing, Sarah felt Jake's arm brushing against her, a silent promise of protection and support that steadied her nerves. This isn't your space, Jake said firmly, stepping closer. The tension escalated, the strangers' laughter fading as they assessed the situation. You should lighten up. We're just trying to have a good time, one of them said, taking a step forward. Yeah, maybe you should leave us alone, Sarah said, her voice stronger now. For a moment, it felt like the world had come to a standstill, the air thick with anticipation. As the strangers continued to approach, Jake stepped protectively in front of her, his expression resolute. Guys, we're not here to cause trouble. We just want to be left alone, Jake repeated, his voice low and commanding. But the tension was palpable. They weren't backing down. Just when it seemed like the standoff could escalate, the lead figure scoffed, "Whatever, man. Not worth it." They turned and laughed as they walked away, vanishing back into the dark trees. Are you okay? Jake turned to Sarah, concern etched on his face. She felt the adrenaline still coursing through her, the weight of the moment sinking in. Yeah, I think, she replied, her voice shaky but steadying as she looked at him. That freaked me out. I'm glad you're okay, he said, clearly, shaken but relief flooding his features. I didn't want anything to happen to you. In that moment of vulnerability, the spark they had been nurturing reignited, the tension swirling around them now charged with urgency. They were standing at the edge of something profound, facing not only the potential of their relationship, but also the realities of the world around them. Filled with emotion, Sarah took a deep breath. Jake, I still want to take that leap. If you do too, he nodded, taking a step closer, their hearts beating in sync. Yes. Let's explore this together. For real. And as the darkness surrounded them, the choice they had to make was clear: a leap toward the unknown, a commitment to navigate the lines that blurred between step-siblings and something more. As the weight of their resolve settled around them, Sarah and Jake moved closer, the notion of uncharted territory glowing against the backdrop of uncertainty. The path ahead was shrouded in mystery, but there was one undeniable truth. They were ready to take that leap, together, hand in hand. And as they stood on the brink of the future, a fierce bond began to form, forged in courage and the undeniable pull of something deeper, a connection all their own waiting for them just beyond the horizon.